You can absolutely conquer whatever it is you choose to confront. In this show, we talk PTG, we listen and believe, we support and empower.
Hey, that's what I always dreamed of, but I was nervous sometimes.
Yeah.
Each time I moved a little closer and a little closer
Yeah.
and a little closer,
Yeah.
and some told me, just take a leap of faith.
There you
Go
go.
ahead, let's jump.
Ready? Let's go. Leap of faith. There you go. Whoa.
Whether you have experienced domestic violence personally or not, someone you know has. Your circle of family, friends, acquaintances, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men will experience domestic violence at some point in their life. Physical abuse is only one of the many forms of domestic violence. Survivors also report experience of verbal, emotional, spiritual, sexual, financial, electronic, and so much more. Domestic violence does not discriminate. It can leave you traumatized and devastated, mentally, emotionally, financially. You can find yourself homeless, jobless, helpless. The list can go on. There's blankets of insecurities, triggers, doubts, and other residual effects that become hurdles that impact our life as we do our best to move on. Many people associate butterflies with a sense of freedom. We've been taught along the way to focus on the transformation that takes place inside of the cocoon. I invite you to take a moment to conceptualize all the odds the caterpillar was up against and needed to defeat in order to get to a safe place, to build its cocoon and actually experience the transformation. My name is A. Garcia. I am a mother and survivor of a double attempted homicide. Now, I'm dedicating my life to take yours to the next level by experiencing post-traumatic growth to begin a new chapter in your life. Let's get started on this journey
Garcia
together.
Here with Confronting Domestic Violence. Thank you so much for joining today, for you cannot conquer what you choose not to confront. And today we have a special guest, Olga, that's willing to share her story, her triumphs, her tribulation, and what she's doing today and how she leveled up her coping skills. Let me please remind you that this is not intended to ignite any triggers. This is intended to empower and to give confidence, hope, and motivation, inspiration if you're currently in a situation or if you have already gotten out but are struggling to move on. So please, with gratitude, let's welcome Olga to the show.
Thank you so much, Agape, for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having the interest to be here. We spoke the other day, and even though it was for like 20, 30 minutes, it felt like we've known each other for a very long time, and we connected on a lot of different levels.
Right. Yep.
I love what you're doing. I love what you're putting out there. I love how you're helping other people. You're gonna take us through your journey. And what I love to do is bring post-traumatic growth to the table. And you are definitely a definition of post-traumatic growth. And I am just elated and so grateful for you to be here and share your journey. So if you would like to get started with what we discussed backstage, if you wanted to talk and give us a little bit of insight to your childhood to set the tone and give the environment to share where it all started.
If you don't mind, I will share what I do now so you can connect the dots backwards. So it took a little bit of a journey to find the true Olga, the real me that you see right now, the one that owns her voice unapologetically and does not care what people think anymore. It took quite guts to come from my communist culture, from religious background, from women don't speak, you don't matter, nobody cares you exist, there's nothing good in you, to actually believe in myself and actually wear bright clothes, because up till just a few months, even though I was doing some speaking, I could not wear very bright clothes. Because the pieces of shame were still there, the pieces of me I didn't own quite yet. So I am coming from a communist country of Russia. I was born half century ago in a Estonian village. I know what poverty is like. I know what having an alcoholic father is like in early childhood. I've seen him beating my mom just to take some money from her to get drunk again. The only glimpses of my father I have is him beating my mom and being drunk. And he disappeared from our lives forever when I was 4. Me and my brother were raised by a single mom who had to work a really hard labor jobs to provide for us. I was raised by a very strict mom. She kept us on our toes. We walked on eggshells all the time. Any spontaneous acts of the way I expressed myself as a child, happy, chatty, outgoing, were suppressed. My mom didn't like to be be loud, to be myself, to be chatty. She wanted me to be quiet. She did not like when I questioned her, whenever I questioned her about anything. And me and my brother were beat up a lot when we did something wrong as kids, wrong, quote unquote, that she did not approve of. But looking back, seeing that my mom herself was raised the way she was bullied a lot, she was beat up a lot, she was never good for anything. Raised by a religious mom back then in communist culture, you were taught in a mindset of we were meant to suffer on earth because Jesus suffered. If people spit at you, people call you names, people abuse you, just pray for them, just put up with it. This is how we're supposed to be, and a better life will be in heaven one day. So it is hard for me even to remember when I was myself, this self that you see now, because most of my life was a lot of sadness, crying, and suffering. I know what it's like to be beat up and be bleeding and to cry, and no one's shoulder to cry on. I had no grandma, no grandpa around, no daddy. I didn't feel safe. The only time I was accepted by my mother is when I did what she told me to do. I had to learn a lot of Christian songs to sing in church. I was like a puppet taken to churches to sing. That was the only time I was approved of. And other times I was approved of is when I dressed the way she wanted me to dress or had a holy look on me. Like she did not want me to be flashy or pretty. So she said, we have to be holy. So she would make me look bold. I had pimples all over my face when I was 10 years old. And I think it's because of stress I was enduring. I had a lot of pimples on my face and I tried to cover them up with bangs. She would put my bangs back and make me look bold. So I had to go to school feeling so ugly, so disgusted about myself. Then you have this low self-esteem and you feel like you're worth nothing and you look down. So I did have some friends. I had some spontaneous, chatty friends who accepted me for what I was myself. But for majority of my life, especially going into teen years and moving to country of Estonia, which is another traumatic stress, when you leave everything you knew in a village that you grew up in, you go to a big country, city, Tallinn, Estonia, and then you feel like you're gray mouse. You feel like you totally don't fit in. You're in this new culture, new environment. You're still with your abusive mom. And you go to school and people make fun of you and you're being bullied. Teacher finds out you're Christian, so she makes you stand up in front of everybody and makes ridicule of the God you believe in. But you believed because you're told to believe. So she makes jokes about me in front of kids. And then you're shy. You're so quiet and shy. You're afraid to look people in the eyes. And that was my life from till I got married, till the age of 19. Basically, I did have a voice. The voice I had, a singing voice. I used to sing because mom made me sing. I was really good at saying poems. I was very articulate. And the good grades in school I had was in Russian, which is like English for you guys, in writing, in speaking. That was the only good thing I remember about myself that I didn't even know, only now realizing this is an inborn gift that I came here with, the gift of speaking. I sang at church a lot, but I was very shy. I would look down. I would sing with a loud voice, but would be quiet. So my mom remarried second time when I was 15 to a religious man who was well known in the community as a good man, a very good preacher. But then we went into a cycle of another year, many years of abuse, where we put up with a lot of bullying, verbal abuse, gaslighting, narcissistic behavior. Me, my brother, and my mother coming to America as refugees when I turned 16, another culture shock. Okay.
And this was a
And,
preacher from, I'm sorry, this was a
he's
preacher
preacher.
from the United States?
No, he's a preacher from Estonia. He was a preacher, a Russian man, but he was a preacher, religious person. And we were living in this environment thinking this is normal. I cried a lot. I hid a lot, and I saw how mom was abused, and I couldn't do anything about it. I didn't know what to do. Then you go to church and you act like everything is normal. You pray to God, you sing, but then at home you are abused. You were beat up earlier because in America you can't beat people up. But there's constant gaslighting, constant yelling, constant him being drunk at night and waking up my mom and yelling at her and turning on lights all over the house. And we as kids are just helpless looking, cannot do nothing about it here in America.
Did you feel like you were reliving your childhood and your teenage years because of that? Were you able to recognize that this was unhealthy and abusive at that time as teenager?
No, I did not like what was happening, but not till I read some books on psychology in America, I found out this is not okay. This is not like this is how I grew up. And a lot of people tell me they think this is normal. Till somebody shows them, no, it's not okay. This is not normal. And I couldn't figure out later on why in church or in public we're showing one face, and at home there's totally different story going on. So I've seen my mom being really verbally abused and yelled at. We as kids crying, don't know what to do, couldn't tell anybody in our community. If you try to tell anything, a woman is the one at fault, not a man. A man is a godly man, the way they know him. So you just pray.
I'm sorry, that's what I want to say. That's an added layer because he's a preacher. He wears the collar. So
Yes.
that's an added layer
Yes.
of what you want to keep discreet because of what he's known to the public.
Yeah.
That social stigma is what I call it.
Yes, and because of the narcissistic behavior, he would be very articulate. The way he speaks is beautiful, and he's very friendly, and he's helping people, and people know him as a good person. And you try to say something like, they will accuse you. Are you kidding me? There's no way. This is a good man, you know. So my mom put up with his abuse by just shutting down or putting her anger at us. And that I repeated some of that cycle with my kids when they're growing up, but not to this extent, because this is what all you knew. And then there's so many times I'm just crying as a teenager in America. I'm crying. I don't fit in American culture, even though there are beautiful American people that just loved us as refugees. And I owe it to America that I am who I am today. I owe it to people who loved me, is saw me for something I didn't know I was. They saw something better in me than I saw myself. I saw myself a piece of trash, good for nothing, because this is a mentality you got ingrained in childhood. You're never good enough for anything. And if you try to shine, don't shine. This is not okay. Just be plain. Don't show up. Don't speak up. You don't matter. So this is the mentality I'm carrying into my marriage at 19, a forced marriage. Because at 18, my friend connects me to this one man on the other side of America, and we start writing to each other. He invites me to Oregon. I visit him, and my mom says, don't come back. We lived in Ohio back then. My mom says, don't come back. You marry that man, you don't come back. And I'm a child. What do you mean, don't come back? Like, I'm in a stranger's house, living here for a couple of weeks at my friend's house. They all want me to marry a person I don't love. And on his side, yeah.
Who's they that wanted
my
you to
friend that I'm living with, because she introduced me to him, thinking we could be a good connection or couple.
So your friend was influencing you to marry this guy?
Yeah, she saw him as a good man. We all show good sides. People don't know what's going on inside, the traumas that we carry, right? So he was a good, kind, quiet, shy man, right? 10 years older than me. He was 29, I was 19. So I'm here visiting in Oregon, and all of his relatives and my friends say, you have to stay here, marry him. On his side, his relatives are telling him, you're getting older. She's a good girl. You better marry her. I try to go back home. My mom in Ohio says, don't come back. This is not a good place, not a safe place to live. You have a chance to have a good life.
Oh, because of her marriage. She already
because
knew
of what's going on.
In.
Yeah, and I still have younger siblings who are traumatized from what they went through. They're in their 30s early.
So when you left to Oregon, were your siblings still with her in that environment?
Yes, they were all were, and my brother, my brother, my two younger sisters and brothers who Two of them are still really traumatized and can't get back on their feet, but I believe they will. So basically, I am forced into this marriage. I know this guy for 3 months. 3 months. We just have restaurant dates. And as soon as you, in my culture, you marry, you start having kids. Back then, 30 years ago, when I came to America, the only social group I had is my church, my religion, my church, Christianity. That's the only group I was around. We went to church, we sang, we listened to preaching, we started family, started having children. We had 6 children in a row. I stayed home for 13 years. Yeah, imagine I did not finish high school. I was 1 year away from finishing high school. I was thrown into this marriage. I never had a childhood where I was a kid. I don't know what it's like to be a kid. I never was a teenager in love. I wish to have love. I always felt ugly and disgusting, and not, I wish somebody liked me, but I felt, no, I'm so disgusting. And I married into this person with this mindset of, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve anything good. There's nothing good in me. So now looking back, I see what mindset I had, right? Of course, you attract what you feel you are. You don't attract the Prince Charming because you don't believe you are this queen that some other my friends are calling me right now, or gorgeous or divine. Those words are not in my vocabulary, right? So I'm here to suffer. I'm here to pray, to believe for the best, for the person to change. And if there's something not right, there's something's wrong with me. God changed me. God changed me. I cry, God change me, or God change him, or God do this. Nothing was happening. First years of my marriage, having these kids, I always carried this sense of heaviness and sadness in my chest for years, and I did not know what it was. I did not know what it was. So when he comes home and yells at me, like even right now, I feel like there's some door opening. I hear loud footsteps. It reminds me of my mom stomping down the house. Something, she's up to something I did wrong. Or I hear somebody in the house yelling my name, Olga, sometimes, or steps, loud steps. I feel this trigger from childhood. Something is up. I'm going to be attacked or something. So I'm constantly on my edge. At first, he brings his own trauma. So there's a high expectations of how I should dress, how I should talk, who should I talk to? What time I should come home, even if though I take kids to the park? Why am I not home? Can I say my truth? Whatever I say never matters. And so all this added to that, you spill your anger at kids. Even though I was a very good mom, I did all I could to them. I took them to free parks, free activities, free food, free clothes. Anything I could, was having no job, right, for 13 years. But as my daughter in her letter, when she's 30 right now, she remembers the mom that was in bed for so many years. She did all she could. She's in bed crying, or when she tries to knock on the door and opens, Mom, said, get away from me. I can't do anything. Get away. There's nothing I can do. Don't ask me. Don't. So she would slip notes under my door saying, Mommy, I love you. I pray for you. I believe in you. She's the oldest of 6 children. Okay. And she's the one, she said in her letter right now, back then, when I was slipping the notes under her door, I was hoping and praying, God, one day I want to see my mommy strong. I want to see my mommy happy. And I tell her today, Diana, he did hear your prayer. It took years for me to be where I am right now. I was not able to even comprehend that there's a different reality for me, that I can live a different life, that I can think about myself differently, that I can take steps out of the pit of despair. It was not open to me yet. All I saw is a victim. I'm not good enough. I'm a piece of trash. I want to die. How many times I want to just jump off the bridge when I was blamed and yelled at for just taking kids out and coming home too late. I would drive away in my van at night so he would just not yell at me, and sit in the parking lot of Winkle and cry and not wanting to come back home. But I had to come back home because there was little kids under 13 still. So no matter what people are going through right now, no matter where you are right now, God or universe or creator, it does hear you, but it'll come to you in the moment you're ready to take that change, which came into my life when I was 42.
Olga, thank you so much for sharing just that huge start of your life, from childhood to 42. First of all, you managed to do that in 15 minutes, which is, I think, record breaking. And I'm able to see like a whole picture here. If you think about the science behind the brain, right, from birth to age 5, 90% of our brain is already developed. So what we see and what we hear, what we feel, what we're being emotionally fed, what we're being exposed to is already shaping our future. And so many times women who are going through an abusive situation and they have the courage, or they finally realize that they've reached their threshold, and then they have the courage to leave that situation, it's almost like a desperation to survive, which it 100% is. I've been there. I've done that myself. There's a lot of things that I align with and completely associate with what you have gone through. And when you get to that place as a mom where you're with your kids and you feel like you have a new beginning, you have hope. Once you are out of that situation, you have hope. And here she came across this preacher who obviously in the community had a very positive reputation. You believe, you have faith, you believe in the religion, you believe that this is a solid person, you have so much respect, and spirituality is a form of wholeness. A part of wholeness is being in your spirituality. So here you have this beautiful woman who was able to have the strength and the courage to leave her abusive relationship, completely change the environment, come across a man that seems like a really great man who speaks the word, who knows the Bible, who's pulling on all the heartstrings, who's taking you guys in, because you can't love the cat without the kittens. So naturally, that seemed so beautiful and so promising, and what she wanted to give to her children, the second chance, right? Nobody knew what was really in that mindset or really in that spirit or character of that preacher man until later. And then unfortunately, during that later, as your mom moved on, that was your teenage years. So here you are now as a recipient of knowing, going back to your neurological responses in your childhood memories, this does seem normal. It is okay. And you're right. What do you know? If that's all, then what else do you know? You don't know what you don't know.
No.
And so when your friend was encouraging you, you said that it was a forced marriage. Can I ask, did it seem forced based on your mom saying, don't come back home because this is so toxic? And your friend saying, he's a good guy, go for it. Did you almost feel like that was your only way out of what you knew wasn't right and what you knew you didn't want to be a part of anymore?
Yes, I think I still had a childhood brain. I was told what to do. And it took me years actually to start making my own decisions after I became a speaker. It was still like, what do I do? What do I do? I could not go back to home, and I could not live in my friend's house. She was married. And I remember telling him, we were on a date again. He didn't like me. He said, I don't like you either. Only time he liked me is I was dressed a certain way, but he was forced into marriage. So, okay, his parents were happy. Actually, what I'll tell you, it might be interesting, it comes to me right now. Because he has many siblings, I felt so accepted and loved by them. Like I felt like a part of a crowd, and I feel like I'm married just because of his family, because they liked me so much. His mom liked me. I didn't experience this growing up. I didn't experience it. People just, let's go to hang out, let's go to the restaurant. I came as an alien from a different country, and his family embraced me and just loved me, and I felt so accepted. And okay, I'll just have to put up with this. I didn't want to marry him, but my mom told me, don't come back. Don't you come back on the phone. Don't you come back, because there's nothing here for you. And I remember telling him when we were on a date one day, I'm going to shoot myself if you don't marry me, because my mom tells me to marry you. That's what I said. I remember that phrase. Like, I didn't want to marry him, but I don't know why I said that. I didn't have a gun to shoot myself, but I said that, say that.
Because you yourself perhaps were so desperate to survive and get out of that toxic environment, because you had no control over your environment, right? You were a teenager. You were in the environment that your mom provided. And so perhaps there was that same desperation to survive that you felt through your mom's survival all those years. And there's nothing wrong with that. We have such a stigma around being ashamed based on decisions being made, but our needs change as our circumstances change. And it sounds to me, based on what you're sharing, that you needed to get out, and your mom was telling you, go and don't come back.
Mhm,
So this was your way out. And he's 10 years older.
mhm,
And a lot of times that those 10 years makes a big difference because
mhm.
they have this capacity that they've already navigated through 10 more years of life than we had as an
Mhm.
adult. So they've learned different tactics to manipulate or cover up and then start gaining control and power. And tell me, 6 kids later, 13 years later, and you're suffering, you're enduring,
Yeah.
you are enduring the pain and suffering that all of us as victims of domestic
Mhm,
violence endure when it comes to financial,
mhm.
physical,
Financial. Yeah.
spiritual, mental. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
All
so
of
many
them.
things.
All of them.
Exactly. While you're laying in bed and you're crying and you're trying to figure out where you are, what's happening, at what point did you realize that you had reached your threshold?
Oh my gosh, I just love this because that's where my life began. So there was years of being depressed, years of hating myself, years afraid to look people in the eyes, years to be afraid to be among Americans or different cultures or different religions. You would be afraid of them because that's how were raised, to be afraid or judge people. You just stick with your own people. And even in your own community, you are not allowed to be yourself or express yourself certain ways. So you don't even know who you are. So at that time, 2008, I had to start a part-time job. I did not work all these years, imagine. And all of a sudden, because of the financial stress, I had to get out, leave my oldest, who was 13, to watch the youngest, and just work part-time. So I entered a retail field, and agape, I was afraid to look people in the eyes. I just came like this. I had my name tag, and I remember they taught me how to cashier. I had to look at people and say hi. And I had to learn again. I felt like a small kid. I felt like a small kid because I did not develop anything. I didn't do anything. I didn't go to school, didn't go to college. I was with kids all my life. And the only social life I had is I trained my kids to sing, to take part in church activities. That was my gift also. I didn't know it was through my life, through childhood. I was involving kids to be left out. I wanted people to always be seen and heard. And so I'm entering this retail field feeling like a small kid. I'm 35 back then. And this teenager guy trains me. I'm scared of this teenager because he has piercings and tattoos all over him. I'm afraid of him. I'm like, but what made a positive impact on me when I went into the retail world is I put my name tag. I'm going down the stairs, and I honor people who changed my life till this day. It might be insignificant, but nothing is insignificant when it changes somebody's way they see themselves, or they start hoping and believing in themselves. I'm going down the stairs for first time at Target that I work at, and this man going up the stairs looks at me and says, "Hi, Olga." I'm like, "Hi." So I went down and started working. But later on, I found out he was my boss. He looked at my name tag and he called me by my name. And that made I was seen, I was validated. And later on, when we worked alongside next few months, he would spend time listening to who I am, my kids, my story. I heard his story. I felt seen and heard and validated, and none of my flaws were pointed out. It's like they see a different person that somebody doesn't show you in your community or home. I wanted to come back to work because there's people there who liked me, who loved me. There were some co-workers who, "Oh, Olga, you look cute today." Nobody tells me I look cute. Somebody said, I was cashiering one day, and this one girl said, "You're so beautiful." I'm like, "Are you talking to me?" Those kind of moments started changing the way, am I beautiful? Do I matter? Those people seem to see something in me I've never seen in myself. So I developed, basically, I'm still going home. I still have same relationship, same problems, same mental abuse, emotional abuse. But then I started crying out. And those bouts of depression, I started crying out like, who am I and why I am here? I cannot live like this anymore. There's something hurting on inside, this heaviness on the inside. I don't know what it is. I cannot live like this anymore. When you cry out to God or universe or creator, whoever you call it, maybe things will not start happening right away, but you are heard, you are ready, you are done. You do not want to be where you were anymore. And the whole universe starts moving on your behalf. All you need to do at that moment is grab those opportunities and information that comes your way and start taking your way out of the situation that you are. Few days later, I open a quote by David Frost on Success Quotes by Forbes. I read through the quotes and I see his quote, and I read, 2 roads diverged in the woods, and I took the one less traveled by it, and it made all difference. All of a sudden, that quote really stuck to me. You know what I did? I went to the mirror in the bathroom. Okay? I was crying with crocodile tears. I was reading this quote, and I said, I will take the road less traveled by, and I do not know what it's going to look like. But I know I don't want to be where I've been all my life. I know that this road I'll take, I don't know what's going to look like, but it's going to make the whole difference. And I promise to you that I will not be there anymore. Okay? So what happens is, in the lowest point of despair, we take responsibility. All of a sudden, you stop saying God has to do it for you, or somebody has to change, somebody has to say sorry. You take responsibility. Now I'm looking back, I took responsibility. I didn't know what's going to be happening. But then God leads you to more things to achieve, to overcome. All of a sudden, I go to the library. I read a book by Marcy Shimoff, Happy for No Reason. I read the stories of people who overcame horrible adversities, and I'm soaking this book in. Oh my gosh, they all had horrible lives, but they did something amazing with their lives. That means my life is not worse than theirs. Their lives even were worse, but they did something good with their life. So it gave me some hope. Then I hear Les Brown. I see, he says, you have a gift. You have something to give to this world. I'm like, oh, I've never heard messages like this. And Bob Proctor, you were born rich. I wasn't born rich. I have no money, no talent, no skill, nothing. You were born. There's some kind of gift you came here to share with the world. There's something unique to you. Do not die full. Die empty. Give your gift to others. So it gave me a different perspective. All of a sudden, I was open to hear those messages. Like, there's something to me. What do I have? So next few days, next 2 weeks, every time kids are sleeping in the morning, I'm waking up in the morning and I'm crying, God, what is my gift? What is my purpose? What am I here to do? Do you see how the slowly mindset is changing? And instead of being a victim, I'm not good enough, I don't want to live, all of a sudden, I'm like, there's something I'm here to do. There's something unique about me. And then the next journey started from there on.
Oh my gosh, there are so many things you touched on that are so profound, and I have to touch on them. I have to point some of them out for our listeners. First and foremost, I have to say that when you talked about looking in the mirror, so there's such a thing as called mirror neurons. And for those listeners, please look it up. It's freaking phenomenal. And I talk about mirror exercise. Hey, I'm going to hurt myself right now. I can't remember the lady's name, and I know her very
I know
well
her too.
because I read the books. I can't remember the name.
Yeah.
But she writes about mirror work.
Yeah.
And it is so freaking true on when you're able to look at yourself and talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend that's in a depression, that's not believing in themselves, that's putting themselves down. If you can check and intercept your inner critic the same way you would behind somebody you love, your best friend, your daughter, your aunt, your aunt, whoever you love, the same way you would correct them. If you can look in the mirror and correct yourself and speak to yourself in the same amount of love, passion, and influence, impact that you would somebody else you love, you can definitely start leveling up your coping skills and believing in yourself again. And I want to talk about that community. Yes, the community was at your place of work, right? Whether it was your boss, your coworkers, your clients, your customers, they were seeing things in you spiritually, physically, energetically. They felt you and they told you what you needed to hear as a person. And for those listeners, getting out of this toxic environment and getting into society, into a community, allowing people to talk to you and share what they see with you. Take that to the mirror. Take that to the mirror and tell yourself, this person saw this in me today. And you know what? I'm starting to see it in myself also. I see what they see. And I'm so big also on talking about if you're lost and you don't know who you are and you don't know where to put those boundaries, who you're not. And you can put your boundaries around who you're not. And the other thing that I wanted to point out that you talked on, which I'm so passionate about as well, is that a lot of people do go to work to get away. That is their escape. Work is a safe place. Work, you can create your own environment because you're in your head and it's your outlook. It's what you're feeling, how you want to feel. Work is a place that we go to avoid being home. And some of us share what's happening or we don't. Some of us are afraid to share what's happening or we're not. Either way, wherever the listeners are, wherever I was, wherever you were, what happened was when we went to work and we dealt with people, we were receiving feedback, acknowledgement, affirmations that we didn't even see in ourselves. So going back to that low self-esteem, going back to that feeling like a piece of trash, feeling like there's no value, that is BS. And when you start to realize that you were victimized, that means you're no longer the victim. And when you realize you were victimized and you didn't have control on what that other person did to you, but yet you have control over you, that is where you are empowered. You're empowering yourself to make that change, see who you are, and move forward in that realm. So with you doing that and you recognizing that other people have also gone through some traumatic experiences and had the resilience to overcome, and we're doing something with that trauma. They were sharing their wisdom. They're stronger. They're smarter. That is the definition of post-traumatic growth. And when you seek for better, you will find better. And like you said, spiritually speaking, your creator did give you gifts. You are born with gifts. You're born with a light. And you are supposed to give, and we are supposed to endure. We're not given more than we can handle, although it may seem like that at times. Once we recognize that we can overcome and persevere, and we take action to do that, that's when we're leading by example. That's when we are going through our personal journey of post-traumatic growth. And so I really just needed to touch on all that because what you talked about is so many things that I try to educate about and motivate about.
I really appreciate that. I love your feedback.
Thank you so much. So tell me now, once you got to that place, what was your decision? Because
oh my gosh, I'm just so excited. Just right now, before talking to you, I had to look in the mirror and say a total different phrase, total different face, total different. So this is who I am now. And I'll say it at the end, who I am now. And I owe it to the woman who looked at the mirror back then and cried and said, I promise to you, I will not go back. I didn't know the journey. But when the journey opens up, when you're already sick and tired of being where you are, my situation did not change. I still was in the same relationship. We still had financial problems. I was still shy, but I was alive that there's something to me. There's something I'm here to contribute to the world. So I was sitting and crying every morning. God, what do I give? What do I give to people? What can I do? And I just wanted to remind you that in our community, why that book really affected me, because in our community, we don't talk about problems. We give it everything to God. We hide everything. And that's the reason why I'm so outspoken now, because I don't like things to be in the darkness anymore. I want to expose what's going on in the darkness, behind the masks of hypocrisy and religion. I want to expose it and bring it to the light, because I was not seen and validated back then. So I help other people to be seen right now. And one day I'm praying and asking, what do I do? What do I do? All of a sudden, oh, I used to sing when I was a little kid till my husband told me to stop singing because it was embarrassing in church. So I did not sing for 30 years. He had a lot of insecurities and fears. He's different now, much different. Not to blame anyone in our past, and I had to submit. You submit. In our culture, you submit. You don't wear certain things, you don't do things. So I did not sing. The only thing I was good at, I was not allowed to do. Okay. I need to practice my voice again. I need to find a voice teacher so I don't die full but die empty, right? So I want to sing. And then universe sends you this person in the store, and I talked to her and she said, oh, Pastor Jeffrey, he'll help you to sing. I go to Pastor Jeffrey and I say, is it too late for me to sing? I'm 42. He said, no, I admire it. It's never too late. And he said, why do you want to sing? I said, I want to inspire people. I want to touch their hearts. I want to somehow make them think bigger about themselves, to hope, to dream, to find something good in them. I don't know how, but I want to use my voice. He said, that's a really good desire, but have you ever thought about Toastmasters? I said, what's Toastmasters? At Toastmasters, I thought, is when they make a toast with vodka in their glass. That's how I saw people growing up in Russian culture. They have vodka, toast. So that's the only image I had. He said, no, Toastmasters, where you feel confident in speaking in public. It might help you also. And I took it as a sign, as a next thing, a sign to step out of where I was. I come home, I Google up local Toastmasters, and I hesitate to come there for a few days, but then I have to go. So I go there. I feel like an imposter. There's a group of American people I've never been around before. I just been around my Russian culture. They're not Christian. They're just Americans, business people, any kind of people. I come there and I sit, and they ask me, hi, what is your name? Why are you here? I'm Olga, and I want to inspire people one day to believe in themselves and to have dreams and to have purpose for their life. I didn't even know what I'll be talking about. I didn't know what kind of people I'll be talking, but I wanted to encourage and inspire them. And I missed a very important part. I have to recap, okay, real quick. Before that, I heard a quote by Robin Sharma. To help you find yourself, to find purpose in your life, face your greatest fear. And greatest fear for me was people, as I told you, people who are different than me, who don't want to go to church, who have tattoos, who are different gender, nationality, culture, status. I took myself to the parks, to the streets, to the cafes, to the stores, and I started listening to my intuition. And I'm scared to death, but I heard Marcy Shimoff saying, listen to your intuition, listen to your intuition. And I am passing this beautiful girl. There's so many stories that really took me out of my box because I started getting to know where they are, people where they are. I'm like, come up to that person, like feeling, say hi to that person who is sitting sad on the bench looking at their phone. Come up to that person who is walking all beautiful and looking proud and like, you know, this Barbie looking lady that I would be afraid to come up to because, oh, she's too much for me because I'm this puny gray mouse. I would come up to her. I would come up to a sad boy on a bench. I would come up to a crying woman on a bench in the park while I was hanging out with my kids. And I say, hi, how are you? Remember the how are you? I missed another important part. How are you question. So I would ask people, how are you, where they are? And I would see they start opening up after I say, are you sure you're okay? They would start opening up when they see I don't judge them and just want to be there and connect them and find something in common and say, hey, I know how you feel. I've been there. I don't judge you. I believe in you. You can do it. There's something greater for you. You'll come out of this situation. I help them change their perspective about their situations and how they saw themselves. But right before that quote, Agape, that I saw, and I spoke in the mirror about taking a different path, when I was in my despair, my neighbor knocked on the door one day, and he was picking up my daughter to babysit for him. And he said, Olga, how are you? I said, I'm good. I started chatting about my kids, and he interrupted me. He said, Olga, how are you? And oh, I'm good. I'm just trying to, my eyes are going all over the place. I don't want him to look in my soul. I'm like, I am trying to apply for this new job and I'll be an interpreter, and which ended up being like, oh, that's good for you. That's good for you. As soon as he went away, I ran upstairs and cried. And I said, I am not good. I am hurting on the inside. And that's when the road less traveled. And that's when finding my purpose. That's when Toastmasters happened. That's when me coming up to people asking how they are and really looking in their eyes and trying to connect with them came from. Really try to see them beyond of what they look like on the side, beyond of my programming, just try to connect, and brought me such joy when I connected with people, rich, poor, men, women, young, old. I was able to connect with them. The more I start to follow the feeling, I'll say hi to that person or ask them a question, give them a compliment about their haircut or hairstyle, or I like your outfit, or and then you'll see if you're connecting with them. And the conversation many times led to on personal level what they're going through or how they came to be where they are now, if they're successful or making positive difference in the community. So my mind was blown away. Wow, we're all the shame. And in churches or communities you're in, like, you should be afraid of those people, or everybody should have it all together, figured out. Don't show your darkness. Don't talk about your problems. We should all be all okay. If something's going on, you pray about it. God will fix it. And I said, no, there's a process of healing. When I heard those people's stories, there's a process of transformation and healing to where they are. And those people who think that they're alone, it could be in churches or on the benches I meet or anywhere at work, they think they're the only ones suffering in those situations. But no, after I heard other people's stories, no, there is hope. And there's a process to transformation and healing. And like, how do I bring all those people together? I didn't know about all the events that people do like I know now, but I had this idea, wow, I'm gonna bring those people together. How do I do that? So when I joined Toastmasters, they gave me an opportunity to say my first icebreaker speech. And I just shared the story of where I'm coming from, abusive past, coming to America. And now I want to fulfill a purpose. I want to inspire people. And that when I went on the stage, as I mentioned to you before, there was a different person on the stage. There's a woman with a loud voice, looking at people's eyes, not using notes, and even squeezed a little song in between my speech, America, land of the free. They were all shocked. And two people came up to me and with tears in their eyes, Olga, you touched our hearts. And you didn't even use notes. I'm like, I didn't. I was studying the notes, but I didn't use the notes. So they said, Olga, you should continue this. We see your passion. You touch our hearts. So I continued entering contests and becoming a Toastmaster, like a leader in a group. And it came naturally to me. And all this time, Agape, I was still afraid. Every single time I would come, I would still feel like an imposter. But what led me to keep going is I didn't want to be where I used to be. I was faithful to this new person that I was becoming. Many times I would not show up to the meetings. Many times I would say I have a headache. But then I would come up, I would show up again and again. Still having same family situation, still no breakthroughs. But I was led by a vision that I'm meant for something more. And there's something I'm here to give to the world. And Toastmasters showed to me, before you recap this, I want to hear your input on this. Toastmasters became my church. They became my family. They became who saw something in me, the gift I had that was suppressed for ages and ages. And this is what most of us don't have. When we have so low self-esteem, when we always see our flaws, when we feel worthless, when there's nobody to mirror back to us what's good about us, and environment where our gifts can flourish. So that was my gift, and I had a purpose and passion to connect people, and ability to bring people together coming from my childhood is now all three of them are connected. And that's what I do today.
Wow, that is so amazing. And again, it's this community, a place where you were accepted and not judged. And crazy that you felt that's what church was, but yet you learned that's where it wasn't.
No.
And again, it was outward. So again, you were championing for yourself. You knew that you deserved better, and you knew that you were the one to take you to that next level. You cannot heal where the trauma resides. And you figured out at some point you reached your threshold. And when you reached your threshold, your survivor skills kicked in again. And this time it was to be independent. This time it was to be an influence and an impact and a leader to your children, because you wanted them to live a different life, to have a different future, to see things for what they were, and to not have to go through what you saw your mom go through and what they saw you go through in the beginning. And you made that very clear. And now you're bringing the masses together and helping them and their voice, and for them to rid that shameness, and for them to rid that inner critic, for them to rid suppressing their voice. Today, you're helping people speak out, speak up. And that's another journey of healing. And it's so profound.
Yes, today, so the next few years, just since 2015, when I found my voice, found my passion, I was not accepted at home by my husband. What I do, I was constantly judged and told that you should do it in church. Don't do it. What people will think. Constantly, what people will think. What people will think. What they said about you. And I had no support at home. The only support I had is it over there, and my passion, the fire I had in my soul, that when I felt alive, when you are led by your soul, like when you find purpose and passion in life, this is the only time I feel alive. I might not have the money or material possessions or fame, but the only time I say I was alive when I was in my authentic power, owning my voice, speaking my truth. Though people do not like it and they're afraid of your light, they don't accept this new person that you showed up. They want you to be like you were. And I owe it to Creator and to myself to speak my truth and live my life inside out. I say, I live my life inside out. I constantly tell, live your life inside out. Look at people through the eyes of the heart, not for your prejudices and fears. I started meeting people on the streets, in the cafes, in the church, anywhere I saw people. Hey, can you share your story? I will give you an opportunity. I'll make a community. I'll order a community room, and you share your story for the first time. Your story matters. People didn't know their story matters. You're kidding me, right? You went through abuse, or you went through pornography addiction, and you're now inspiring others, or you're like good man now having a job. You went through drug abuse, and now you're this important leader in the community. And because they told me that's where they came from, and the process of overcoming that pain and abuse, the process of refining their soul, is made them this beautiful people who they are now, who are empathetic, who are caring, who are people of integrity, who are making positive difference in the world. You weren't just born like this. I was thinking, oh, those amazing, beautiful, successful, rich people, they were born that way. No, the fires of life, the traumas, the abuse, where they're coming from as phoenix from the ashes, as I say. But they all had those lowest moments where they cried out for help, or someone came in their life and made a switch in their brain that something is possible for them. Amazing stories. So I made those people, I would meet with them one by one, like depending what event I wanted to put up on self-esteem, or overcoming trauma, or overcoming addictions or divorce. Because in church, it's still not really allowed to do. People are hushing this stuff up, especially in my community. And I said, I'll give you a safe atmosphere, environment to share your story, because people need to hear that they can too change their lives. They're not alone. And when those women or young men would speak up, not professionally, I just told them like 1, 2, 3, 4, tell your steps. We were skipping the steps in church. God set you free. Like, how did He set you free? I was never free. Like, the process is what's missing. The process. They're being vulnerable and real where you were. So by them, me being there for them, listening without judgment and valuing their story, gave them opportunity to speak up for the first time. And many of them, some of them put their poems in a book and published it. Another one opened her shop. Another guy, he used to be in pornography addiction. He said, because I really feel cold now to speak on this issue to other young men, and church is not allowing him to do it. So he's becoming a life coach. And so he'll do it outside of church. I said, church, most of the time, people who you were around, I was thinking I'm going to reach my people in church. No, they don't want my message there. Even though I know the need is so great there. So they're finding me outside of church, outside of the environment. So there's so many people. Another lady said, because you spoke so openly about what you went through, and you allowed another woman speak about sexual abuse you went through, you gave me courage to speak up and to own my story. And now I serve other women thanks to you. And she's an American woman who was sexually abused for many years, trafficked, drugs, drinking. She's already been saved. She already worked with therapists, but she had fear of speaking up and sharing her story. She felt like her story didn't really matter that much. But now she says, because I know my story matters, now she goes to the bars, she goes to other rehab places, and she shares her story. She loves on people because of the fires of life she went through. So I want to touch up on this one, a very important point. When we, agape, find our calling and purpose in life, and I don't know about your life, how it was, but in my life before COVID hit, I gave up on myself and on my calling. Maybe not totally, but maybe 98%. So last time I did my event, I still did my events for free. I served my community for free. I pulled out amazing people to speak, to share their story for the first time. I wish the whole world knew their story. And some people, actually, one of my first speakers became nationally known speaker right now. He's a nationally known traveling speaker because I gave him a spot in front of 7 people, my very first event, to share his story and his passion for life. He said, Olga, I never looked back. So no little deed of kindness or coming from inspiration, from purity of your heart ever will be unseen by universe or God. But through whole time of me for the last 8 years, from 2015 to 2019, what it was, 4 or 5 year period, right? I was doing those events while being mom, while working part-time job, while still having same, not very abusive situation, but constant resistance for who I was becoming, constant putting down and resistance. I didn't see any growth. I didn't become any bigger, like I was assuming I would be. And I didn't feel, my events didn't grow that big. And I started doubting myself, thinking nothing I do matters, nothing, I don't really make a positive difference. What is this? God, what is this all about? In 2019, I was crying in my car, and this heaviness I carried through my life, Agape, it was still there, but I pushed through it. I pushed through it while doing events. It gave me joy to love people and all that stuff. But something still blocking me. And combining with not really getting bigger or influencing people in a bigger way, it was still local in small groups and activities I did. I thought, this does not matter. God, I just give up. There's nothing, I don't know what it's all about. I don't know what this all growth was all about, but I give up. I hate myself. I still feel insecure about myself. I can't fully accept this new person that I am becoming because this old person was still, the old me was still battling this new powerful me. And I did not understand it at this time, why I had constant battle. I would put up an event and then hide. I would put a video on a YouTube or Facebook and maybe take it off sometimes. Oh my gosh, what people are gonna think? What? What? One day I'm inspired, next day I'm attacking myself. I could not understand what was going on. It was too hard to keep on going, doing this way. And then when COVID started, I went into another period of my darkness, and that's what I would call shadow work and inner child healing. And that's where I was for the last 2 years. It was this last year I turned 50, and I had another rising from the ashes experience that will never take me back where I came from.
Wow. Wow. How powerful. And that goes back to what you said originally as it relates to when you feel that fire, when you feel that spark, when you feel your spirit engulfed, when you feel alive, when you know that you're feeding your spirit and you're feeling like you're giving your gifts, like you're emptying yourself, like you said, but it's so fulfilling at the same time. You're emptying while you're, and it's fulfilling.
Yeah.
And it really sounds like that is your honest and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the message here, is that when you know that you've reached your threshold and you have found what makes you fire and fuel and give you all this energy and feed that spirit inside, that's when you know that's what you need to be doing. Follow that, because that is your gift, your spirit, your soul being fed. And when you're doing that for yourself, you're able to give to others. You're able to impact others. And you have just taken us through a journey that, again, post-traumatic growth, it was definitely the endurance and the resilience that you had to apply, and knowing yourself. And like I said, not so much, oh my gosh, where am I? What is going on? Why is this happening? You shifted that to, this is not who I am. This is not what I'm going to do. This is not what I'm going to raise my kids to be around. And I'm going to ask you, can you give our audience a wounds to wisdom statement? What is your statement of wisdom based on the wounds that you have endured and overcome?
Your greatest adversity is actually where Lisa Nichols says, your motivation in life is wrapped in a sandpaper. What is your sandpaper? My sandpaper was, you don't matter, your voice doesn't matter, shut up, you're nothing. That's my sandpaper. Low self-esteem, low self-worth, I'm nothing. That's my sandpaper. So whatever you're going through, the hardest experience in your life is where your gold or your treasure lies. Though at that moment you might not be able to see it. If somebody told me back then, no, I wasn't ready. But when the time is ready, when you yourself are crying out, who am I if I'm here? Show me the way. You will be shown the steps to take. You'll be taking your way out of it. And then you will look back and you'll see, and you'll be proud of yourself that you reclaimed your dignity, your purity, and your freedom, because no one else out there could do it for you but you. So whatever in life is trying to break you or to just rip you apart, that's where your strength and most likely your purpose will be born from. And my purpose is now to speak life, to validate people, to listen to people, to help them break out of their boxes, to change their mindsets, and to see the potential. Every time I speak a little messages on Facebook or Instagram, I say, you are not that. You are not your mistakes. You're not your trauma. You're not your culture. You are not your messes. You're not your failures. You are that spark of light that came here to this world before the world messed you up, before they started putting labels on you, before traumas define you. That's who you are. That's my message. Because the painful thing is when you identify with everything that you are not, and that's not who you are. So I help people to shape shift in what they believe, in what is possible to them. By me speaking, share my message either in public or if I do my Instagram or Facebook posts, I address issues that most of us are afraid to talk about without fear and apology. And I help people transform their lives, because it's such a suffering to sit quiet and to just lick your wounds. It's such a suffering to be there. And you need someone to come and shine some light into your darkness. And that's what I do. But only those people who are ready will hear. And I'm not going to tell them what to do as a life coach too. I'm not going to tell them what to do. I sit with people and I hear their story and I say, what do you want to do? What do you see this higher version of you doing? You tell me what steps you want to take. And really quick, I want to share with you what helped me to climb out and finally be who I am unapologetically, if you don't mind, just for 1 second. So I was turning 50 June 19th, just recently, right? And as I mentioned to you before, these 2 or so years of this COVID stuff, I hid into the shadows, afraid to shine again, as self-doubt and just crept in, and there's heaviness in my heart, not fully accepting this new me. I put pictures of myself since childhood, since I'm baby, preteen, teen, married woman with kids, and then who I am when I was in my power. I put them all on the wall behind me, actually. I taped the whole wall. Then also what I did is I took this. I took the words that people spoke to me when I went to events, and I just shortly shared with them who I am, what I do. I put words like this: you, Olga, you're a powerful woman. You have a powerful voice. Own it. Olga, I hear you. Olga, you're passionate and you're personified. Your excitement is contagious. Olga, you're a powerhouse. Olga, you're spreading your light. Do not give up. Olga, I'm glad to know you. I'm glad to see your light. I put those words on the wall behind me. I was looking at those words and I looked at my childhood. I see no light, no happiness in my childhood. I don't see my laughing. I don't have any pictures of me laughing. I see sadness through my preteen, teen, through my marriages. And then I see pictures when I'm with people. And then I see a happy Olga. And I see Olga who is in this alive. And then those words, and I start crying every day. God, if you still want me to speak, if you still want me to inspire people, because I know the need is there. I kept on still coming up to people, though not in a major way. And then I said, help me to teach me to love myself. I don't love myself. I don't accept myself fully. Show me that you love me. And every day for 2 weeks, I would be screaming in my car, I deserve love and I accept it now. I want to feel love. I never felt love, like self-love, self-acceptance with all my flaws, with all mistakes, just fully accepting her and owning this new person that came on the scene, just fully incorporating that whole person and becoming whole. For 2 weeks crying, God, show me that you love me. I don't feel love. Show me that you love me. And God always answers. Universe answers. The person shows up in my life loves me unconditionally, day after day, tells me who I am. I have a powerful voice. You speak from the heart. You touch my soul. You're a powerful woman. You're this. And then that person basically loves me to life. And you know who that is. Basically coached me to life. Coached me to fully accept this new person that this old, scared Olga was afraid of. And now this person that you see right now is speaking her truth unapologetically. I have no fear of what people will say about me. I don't care if I lose everything and everyone that I know. But what makes me alive is speaking my truth in love. And as long as I'm in integrity, as long as I do it for not for personal interest or some kind of personal gain, I still have this heart of Olga that came out of her ashes 42 years ago, with love for people, with wanting to hear them, to validate them, to see the best in them, and inspire them to go out there and change other people's lives.
My heart is beating so fast. I'm like, oh my gosh, listen to your story, your journey, and look at what clarity has brought you. Clarity of who you are, clarity of who you're not, clarity of what makes your spirit feel like it's on fire, clarity of what makes you happy, clarity of what makes you feel like you're being that influence. And with that clarity, you have purpose. In that purpose, you're walking forward, you're doing, you're giving, you're receiving, you're having camaraderie. In that purpose, you're instilling courage in yourself, courage to keep going with what you're receiving from people, those positive affirmations, those thank yous, those that feeling of actually giving your gift and it being received. Now you're being an influencer. You're being an influencer and people are looking for you. They're depending on you. They're waiting for you. You're seeing a bigger purpose for yourself. And with the courage, with the clarity, with the purpose, with the influence, this is what makes you whole. This is where you find your true happiness. And Olga, you are still giving, you're still doing, and all that you've received, all that you've gone through, all that you've endured and persevered and giving back. Look at how many lives are being restored just through your story and what you're doing from it, your post-traumatic growth, your wisdom and your experience, your strength, your influence, your voice is making a difference, and you're bringing people with you. That is so beautiful. Please tell our audience where they can find you.
I have Extraordinary on Purpose. I was Olga Facebook page. It says Olga Kuzmenko / Extraordinary on Purpose. I have Instagram, Olga Kuzmenko. You'll see me in a black suit. No, it's actually not black suit anymore. I changed it. It used to be in a black suit. Now it's in a bright pink shirt. Yeah. So now my soul is shining out. So I'm wearing bright clothes. I could not do it. That's another thing. I was a gray mouse. I could not wear bright clothes for ages until somebody told me, why are you wearing dark clothes all the time? So my soul shines out. I wear bright clothes. It's Olga Kuzmenko on Instagram and Olga Kuzmenko on YouTube, which I plan to grow professionally. But there's a lot of events I did, some interviews I did. I love to take interviews from people. I like to dig their stories out just like you do. And that's where I am, just Olga Kuzmenko everywhere.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being on Confronting Domestic Violence as we try to help real-time victims with real-time resources. We help families move from a unsafe place to a safe place when they have a safe place to go to, but not the means to get there. There are so many people out there struggling with real-time needs. And because a lot of resources are scarce, we try to fill that gap as a nonprofit. And you, my dear, in Confronting Domestic Violence head on from a child all the way through your 40s, we are still fighting for our rights, and we're still fighting to live beyond the trauma and grow and be better people. Being your incredible self is something that you deserve. And once you realize that you can only control yourself and you live in your head and you can intercept those negative thoughts and that inner critic, you're on your way. You are so on your way to post-traumatic growth. And I know that you and I have work to do together. We're going to be in touch. This is a journey for us to take together. So I really appreciate you being on here. Thank you so much for sharing your social media handles and places for people to find you. And they'll be seeing more of us very soon.
Awesome. Nice to be here. Thank you so much, Agape. I just love you, and I love your spirit, and we connect so perfectly. Thanks.
Oh, we do. We have similar souls to capture, my dear. Thank you so much.
Confronting Domestic Violence is a 501c3. All contributions, volunteers, and sponsorships are welcomed. It takes a community to make a difference. Nobody should suffer alone. Please scan the QR code.